Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And Good Morning America. So great to have you with us on a Sunday. Excited about that bucket battle? You know,
we know that you are excited.
Trying to get people to. I may or may not have a popcorn bucket down here that we will talk about later.
We're calling them Bucket Bay this morning.
There you go. We have a lot to cover here this morning, including word of a massive data breach at Ticketmaster. More than 500 million customer accounts said to be affected. We'll let you know what you should do if your account might be involved.
Yeah, so many concerts last year. And Boeing now looking for the next launch opportunities this week after yesterday's mission of its Starliner spacecraft was scrubbed with just 3 minutes and 50 seconds left in the countdown.
Yeah, this has been long delayed. But first, we are going to start here with California's peak wildfire season, starting off in a big way. More than 10,000 acres burned with homes threatened, flames and smoke filling the sky. ABC's Melissa Adon is in our Los Angeles bureau with more. Melissa, good morning. A big deal here.
Good morning, Gio. Definitely a big deal. This is a major wildfire that has broken out. We're talking about 11,000 acres. The Cal Fire calling this the Coral Fire. This is happening over in Northern California, south of Sacramento. About 11,000 acres, 13% contained. Now, we have gotten word that 2 firefighters were injured. They were moderate to mild burns. They are being treated at a hospital, but we can show you those images. Really just impressive because evacuations are underway, as well as a major freeway that has been shut down right now. It still remains closed as crews work to battle this blaze. Now, this is a fast-moving, wind-driven grass fire. The Cal Fire Battalion Chief in San Joaquin County sharing how the high grass is just fueling this fire. And on top of that, they're battling this with just gusty conditions, clocking in about 40-mile-per-hour gusts. And at this point, they're really hoping for a break in the winds to assist with their fire rescues. But look, this is just such a clear reminder that despite the wet season we had out here in California and across the West, it is such a concern because there is a lot of things out here that makes it very apparent that there is fuel out here for this fire and that fire threat is still a major concern up until this point, especially as we're talking about warmer temperatures that we're expecting to face in the coming days.
Absolutely. Just getting into those summer months. Melissa, thank you. That wildfire spreading in hot, dry, windy conditions, as Melissa just noted. Let's get right to ABC's Samara Theodore looking at the weather picture here. Samara, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. Yeah, the improvements are not coming anytime soon. So here we have the Coral Fire burning just south of Tracy. Winds are going to gust up to 40 miles per hour today. Look at the temperatures, 85 degrees today. They're anticipated to hit about 100 degrees by Tuesday, and that's when that excessive heat watch goes into effect from Redding all the way down to Afton. We also have a heat advisory that will begin a little bit closer to the coastline. We do expect the excessive heat watch to expand then by the middle of the week to Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Tucson. Speaking of Las Vegas normally hits 110 degrees by July. They could be looking at hitting 111 by Thursday. That will be the earliest on record. Triple digits anticipated in Palm Springs and Phoenix as well. And very quickly, I'll wrap with this. The the Climate Prediction Center is anticipating temperatures to remain above normal out west as we head into next weekend. So no relief in sight. Janae?
Oh, none at all, Samara. Thank you for that. Well, across the country, the mayor of Atlanta declaring a state of emergency following massive disruptions to the city caused by multiple water main breaks. ABC's Faith Abube is in Atlanta with an update on the boil water advisories. It is having a big impact there. Faith, good morning.
Yeah, it really is, Janae. Good morning to you. Much of the downtown area right now is still under a boil water advisory with little to no water in some places. And one of the most frustrating things for businesses and residents here is the idea that they have no clue at this point how long they'll have to remain under that state of emergency. Take a look at some of these images of the water main breaks, multiple water main breaks over the weekend that really triggered these issues. Officials were saying that they're waiting for a part to arrive in order to fix one of the main areas. In the meantime, though, they're handing out cases of water and setting up temporary places where people can use the bathroom. These main breaks have disrupted everything in parts of the downtown area this weekend, forcing many businesses and major city attractions to close. A Megan Thee Stallion concert was also canceled 2 nights in a row. And at some point yesterday, there were even local reports that one of the hospitals here had to temporarily reroute ambulance traffic to other locations. Now, city officials are apologizing, but they're also blaming aging infrastructure for the issues and say that they are working as quickly as they can to resolve these problems. Gio.
All right, and let's hope they do. All right, Faith Abube, thank you so much. And to the breaking political news now, we do have a new ABC News Ipsos poll, and it's our first look at how voters are reacting to the felony conviction of former President Trump. The polling started the day after the New York jury found Trump guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records to hide hush money paid to porn actress Stormy Daniels. ABC News political director Rick Klein joins us live now from Washington with this. Rick, good morning to you. Let's take a look at the numbers here, because our poll suggests that 50% of Americans think the verdict against Trump was correct. 49% think he should end his campaign. So, Rick, what does that tell us?
Yeah, good morning, Gio. That is a really striking number. This is such a closely divided country, and the fallout from this verdict is no different. And to see it split along party lines is one thing, but to see these stark numbers and see that half the country thinks it was the verdict was right and almost half thinks he should drop out tells you something about the political damage or the potential damage that Trump faces. Most Republicans are backing Trump, but it was striking to me in this poll to see about 1 in 6, 16% of Republicans say that this verdict was correct and say he should drop out. Those are big, big numbers, but this has divided the country like so many other issues before it.
Big numbers, Rick, but these numbers change when you look at Americans who specifically view Trump and Biden unfavorably, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, this is a big headline out of the poll, Gio, because when you drill down on these numbers, you see 65% of the people that dislike both candidates, we're calling them so-called double haters in this race, think the verdict was correct, and 67% think that Trump should end the campaign. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, we have an election that has two candidates who are so historically disliked. This group of voters might actually decide this election. By some measures, they might be as much as 20% of the country. And for them to come out this strongly and feel like the verdict was correct and that Trump deserves some kind of a punishment and that Trump should actually drop out of the race, that tells you something about the mindset of voters like this. Now, some of them may not vote at all. Some of them may decide to go for a third-party candidate. Some might come back into the Trump fold when they're faced with the choice of Trump versus Biden. But that's a pretty big split. And to see two-thirds of voters that dislike them both agree on that is, to me, really something.
So, Rick, at the end of the day, did the trial hurt Trump and help Biden in any substantial way?
Not in these numbers, no, Gio. The perceptions of these men are so baked. They are just as popular, or should I say unpopular, as they have always been. And that hasn't changed as a result of this. Trump is no really worse for the wear, and Biden doesn't look any better. But I do think this is interesting as well. We should note that 47% of voters in this survey say that these charges were politically motivated. Now, of course, a similar number think that the charges were right. So both of those things can be true at the same time. People can think it's politically motivated and at the same time think that the charges should have been brought and that the case was rightfully decided. At the end of the day, this just tells you something about this polarized country and how the messaging now has to shift. If you're Joe Biden, this is a big opportunity for his campaign. If you're Donald Trump, you've kind of been saying the same thing all along, and you are seeing some traction from the argument that these were politically motivated charges, even though so much of the country thinks he is right to face punishment.
All right, Rick Klein with the new numbers. Thank you so much, my friend. And tune in to This Week Later. We'll have more on the poll. And George Stephanopoulos speaks with Trump attorney Will Scharf and Biden ally Governor Wes Moore of Maryland following Trump's historic felony conviction. Plus, George speaks with White House National Security spokesman John Kirby about the state of the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Whit?
Gio, we head overseas to the war in Ukraine as U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin meets with Ukrainian President Zelensky at a security summit in Singapore. ABC's M. Nguyen is joining us now from Washington with more on the overnight developments. M, good morning.
Whit, good morning. Yeah, this was a crucial face-to-face for the Ukrainian president to meet with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin overnight amid mounting urgency for Kyiv. At this time, of course, the Pentagon now telling us that Austin reiterated the U.S.'s unwavering support for Ukraine and ensured the U.S. would help provide the country what it needed to defend itself. The two leaders pledged to further strengthen the strategic defense partnership between the two nations. The Ukrainian president also speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue, a major annual defense summit in Asia, in hopes of winning more international support and weaponry as his troops scramble to push back a major Russian offensive in northeast Ukraine. This as President Joe Biden broke from a long-standing policy granting Ukraine permission to use American-made weapons inside Russia for the very first time. It's a major reversal, as just days ago the administration signaled a move like this could escalate the war by more directly involving the U.S. in Ukraine's fight with Russia. But now U.S. officials telling ABC News the president president changed his mind to allow Ukraine to better defend itself against the recent attacks on its border. Janae.
All right, Em, thank you for that. Turning now to the dramatic scene inside an Idaho courtroom where convicted triple murderer Chad Daybell was sentenced to death. ABC's Alex Perche joins us now with more. Good morning to you, Alex.
Good morning, Janae. It was the details of this case that were especially heinous, which is why once Chad Daybell was found guilty on all 8 counts against him, the prosecution sought the death penalty, and the jury agreed.
The court is directed that the defendant would be sentenced to death on those counts.
Chad Daybell sat emotionless as a jury of his peers sealed his fate. And this morning, the so-called doomsday author sentenced to death after being convicted in the 2019 murders of his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and his second wife's 2 children, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan and 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow.
This is the best justice we can possibly get. It brings closure for everybody that's been hurt.
The 2 children were last seen in September of 2019. Prosecutors say Daybell and his now wife Lori Vallow claimed their kids were zombies and conspired with Lori's brother Alex Cox to kill them. After nearly 10 months of searching and working the case, investigators found Tylee and JJ's bodies buried in shallow graves in Daybell's backyard in Idaho. Prosecutors say Tammy Daybell died at the hands of another due to asphyxiation. Lori Vallow, who by then was already in custody, was heard talking to Daybell on a jailhouse phone call during the search of his home.
Were they in the house?
No, they're out on the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching.
The jury in this case listened to over 60 witnesses, but it took them just about 9 hours to recommend the death penalty. FBI investigator Doug Hart telling us their verdict didn't surprise him.
There are certain cases that just stick with you. This is going to be one of those for you.
Oh, absolutely, both personally and professionally. At the end of the day, there are victims who senselessly were killed, and that loss and that pain is very real for their loved ones and their families. It's very real for us.
Lori Vallow received a sentence of life without parole last year, and investigator Hart tells me that yesterday was emotional for his team, and as they were preparing to leave the courthouse, they were applauded by the families of the victims. After 5 years, Gio, they're finally getting closure.
They are, and so many disturbing details in this case. All right, Alex, thank you. Now to the trial of the president's son, Hunter Biden, due in federal court tomorrow to face gun charges a year after his plea deal unraveled. ABC's Mary Alice Parks is in Washington now with more. Good morning, Mary Alice.
Gio, good morning. That's right. This is about how Hunter Biden bought that gun back in 2018 when he was struggling with addiction. The president's son had hoped to avoid court. He had initially agreed to that plea deal where he wouldn't face prosecution on these charges. But like you said, that fell through.
Jury selection set to begin in Wilmington, Delaware tomorrow in the first trial of Hunter Biden. The president's son facing 3 felony charges related to obtaining a firearm in 2018. At the heart of the case, whether Hunter Biden was addicted to drugs at the time, but lied on a federal form to purchase a revolver, 25 rounds of ammunition, and a firearm accessory. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointing a special counsel in the case.
The idea is that by having a special prosecutor, they are one step more removed from the federal government, and there's no appearance of impropriety or bias on the prosecution of Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden possessed the gun for less than 2 weeks. But prosecutors plan to use his own words against him, including excerpts from his 2021 memoir, Beautiful Things, as well as a text message he allegedly sent around the time suggesting he was using crack cocaine. Hunter has been public and very open about his struggles with addiction and other parts of his past.
I'm here today to acknowledge that I've made mistakes in my life and wasted opportunities and privileges I was afforded. For that, I'm responsible.
The defense planning to cast doubt on who exactly filled out the forms and potentially argue Hunter Biden, who had just completed a rehabilitation program, did not believe in that moment he was an addict.
The uniqueness of this case is that Hunter Biden's addiction is very public. Just think about it this way. How would you know if someone had an addiction? That's usually a very private issue.
Now, one complicating factor here, the Supreme Court is set to rule any day now on another Second Amendment case about whether some federal restrictions on gun purchases can stand. That could be a wrinkle here and give Hunter Biden new grounds for appeal. Whip.
Mary Alice Parks for us this morning. Thank you. New details today on that massive data breach impacting loads of Ticketmaster customers. A hacking group now claiming responsibility. ABC's Alexis Christoforous is here with more on what you need to know. Alexis, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. This is a massive data breach affecting more than 500 million Ticketmaster customers. Parent company Live Nation confirms it found unauthorized activity on its database May 20th. 1 week later, on May 27th, the company says a group of hackers tried to sell the stolen personal details of 560 million Ticketmaster customers on the dark web. Now, the stolen information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, and some credit card details of millions of Ticketmaster customers. The hacking group was reportedly trying to sell that data for $500,000. News of the massive data breach comes as the Justice Department filed a lawsuit just a week ago against Live Nation, calling on a federal court to disband the company. The government accuses Live Nation of running an illegal monopoly that it says limits competition and drives up ticket prices for fans. Live Nation calls the government's accusations baseless. Now, as for that data breach, it doesn't appear that passwords were compromised, but if you have a Ticketmaster account, experts recommend changing your password as a precaution, using two-factor authentication, and never share your personal or financial information with online solicitors. Gio?
It is so important to turn on that two-factor authentication. Thank you, Alexis. And now another disappointing attempt at launch for Boeing's Starliner. Yesterday's planned launch scrubbed. With just 3 minutes, 50 seconds left in the countdown, the historic space flight delayed after engineers discovered a computer issue connected to the ULA rocket that carries that Boeing spacecraft to space. The crew had already strapped in, and the Starliner hatch was closed with a farewell message from Commander Butch Wilmore. Mission managers say that they will fly when conditions are safe and they feel ready. Of course, you have humans on board here. The next launch opportunities are this coming Wednesday and Thursday, so we will be watching that.
Feel for that crew. They're
That's
all strapped in.
disappointing.
They were ready to
yeah,
go.
has got to be. Man, but you got to be safe. Yes, as you said, there are humans involved.
Exactly.
But the weather looked good yesterday. It's time now for a check of the weather. And Samara Theodore, some of us are going to get another good day.
That's right. Some of us will. Some of us may not. Let's go ahead and take a look right now at the chance for storms. So we have 47 wind reports that came out yesterday. Saturday was very active. In fact, at Magnolia Beach, Texas, we saw wind gusts hit 100 miles per hour. It knocked over an RV and capsized 2 boats there. That threat continues, stretching all the way from the Canadian border down to the Mexican border. Greatest threat in parts of central Nebraska today. Be safe, my friends. Over to you.
I was liking that 83 in New York. I'll take that. Thank you, Samara.
Tank top.
All right, tank tops out, sun's out, guns out. All right, let's talk about the WNBA and rookie sensation Caitlin Clark helping the Fever earn their first home win of the season in a highly anticipated matchup. ABC's Morgan Norwood joins us with more on that. Morgan, good morning.
Good morning to you. Yes, they meet again. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they have not been on the same court since March Madness, so there was a lot of hype behind their first professional matchup. And needless to say, guys, it did not disappoint.
It was the highly anticipated matchup between college rivals Caitlin Clark
through the lane
and Angel Reese.
Doubles to Reese, her jumper is good.
The last time the two faced off, the Elite Eight in Women's March Madness. But Saturday, the now pro rookies on the WNBA stage. Caitlin Clark had an early run with 2 back-to-back threes, finishing with 11 points. And Angel Reese aggressive on the glass with 8 offensive rebounds.
Reese on the offensive glass.
But this was the play of the game. In the fourth quarter, Clark seizing the rebound,
Clark another rebound,
tossing the ball to Erica Wheeler, who handed it off to Kelsey Mitchell for the alley-oop and the and one.
No, that was pretty.
All for a flawless finish on the fast break. But this morning, this play drawing intense criticism.
Unnecessary.
Kennedy Carter shoulder checking Clark, knocking her over in a call that was deemed a common foul. Clark brushing it off.
I wasn't expecting it, but I think it's just like, just respond, come down, let your play do the talking. It is what it is. It's a physical game.
Fever head coach Christy Sides expressing frustration with the league after asking them to review questionable plays.
We just keep sending all these clips into the league, and they keep telling us why we're not right about our calls, or what we think. but we're going to keep doing it.
The Fever going on to snag their first home win in a game that featured 3 of the top picks from this year's draft, a star-studded rookie class driving the surge in historic ticket sales and viewership.
And Kennedy Carter was also asked about that shoulder check post-game. She refused to answer questions about Caitlin Clark. The Fever, they take on the New York Liberty tonight right here in the city. So we'll see.
Yeah, the way that women have been playing has got people talking. Yeah, thanks, Morgan. And ESPN's Malika Andrews joined us in our next half hour to break down the NBA final matchups as the Mavericks take on the Celtics Thursday.
Also, our morning medical rundown, including new evidence for the Mediterranean diet. Stick around. You're watching GMA.
We've got the exclusive view behind the table. Every day, right after the show, while the topics are still hot, the ladies go deeper into the moments that make the View the View. The Views Behind the Table podcast. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
When it comes to winning elections, is it really the economy, stupid? Are soccer moms the quintessential swing voter? And does it matter which candidate you'd rather share a beer with? Every election cycle, cliches come easy. But are they right? In a new series on the 538 Politics podcast, we're taking a look back at conventional wisdom from past elections. Where did that wisdom come from? And does it hold up today? Find the Campaign Throwback series in the 538 Politics feed wherever you get your podcasts.
The stars of our show, Jack and Vanna White.
Welcome back to GMA on this Sunday morning. Longtime Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak is saying his final goodbyes. Sajak will sign off as host of the widely popular game show after a 43-year run. The 77-year-old host has been spending his last week taking fans behind the scenes. Pat Sajak's last show will be aired this coming Friday on June 7th.
Wow. 43 years.
No.
Oh my gosh. All right, well now congratulations to him though. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
Now let's take a look at some of the other big stories that we're following on this Sunday morning. Happening right now, evacuations are in effect in San Joaquin County as firefighters in California battle the Corral Fire. The wildfire has now spread to more than 11,000 acres and is just 13% contained. Officials say the fire broke out in a mainly rural area southwest of the city of Tracy, roughly 50 miles east of San Francisco. 2 firefighters have been taken to the hospital with minor to moderate burns.
Just incredible. Also right now, the cost of inhalers has gone down for Americans as new out-of-pocket price caps went into effect for the asthma medications from AstraZeneca and other companies on Saturday. The drug makers have agreed to cap out the cost for the life-saving medication at $35 per month.
All right, let's talk about Janae's favorite sport, hockey. The Florida Panthers knocking the New York Rangers out of Stanley Cup contention. Panthers winning the Eastern Conference in 6 games last night. They will await the winner of the Western Conference final between the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers currently lead the Stars 3-2 with a chance to close out the series today. The Rangers fans in New York around here, quite heartbroken.
They are sad.
Yeah.
My Panthers.
Your Panthers, I love that.
That was cute.
Yeah. Gio, the hockey
was
fan,
cute.
we love it.
Yeah.
All right, we do want to start this half hour with a look at some of the significant health stories making headlines this morning. And ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton is here to break it all down for us. Dr. Darian, always great to have you.
Good morning.
So we're touting the benefits once again of the Mediterranean diet. Tell us about this.
It's benefits that have been reaffirmed. You know, these studies, they keep coming in and telling us that the Mediterranean diet is great for our health. So this study, it's about 25,000 people, and they found that those who stuck to the diet had a reduced risk of death from heart disease, among other causes, by almost 25%. So I think using some factors within this diet, for example, using olive oil as your main source of fat, decreasing added meat, decreasing added sugar, making sure you're focusing on a variety of vegetables is, of course, going to be helpful, and one of the reasons why the American Heart Association advertises this diet.
That's good news because I just love drizzling that olive oil everywhere.
Same.
All right, so peanut allergies.
Yes.
Let's talk about peanut allergies because now there's the possible benefits of early exposure. What do you mean?
Well, we've long known this. It's been in fact for a few years. I'm sure many new parents have been told exposing children early to things like peanuts is actually helpful into reducing their risk risk of peanut allergies later on in life. How much is that risk reduced? It's shown in this study. It's showing that those who introduce their peanuts and other variety of foods early in life have almost a 70% reduced risk of peanut allergies.
Wow.
And so that not only helps the child, of course, but you can imagine the amount of anxiety those live with who are trying to avert those allergies.
I am a big peanut butter fan. That baby is getting peanut butter, really,
Same.
because we do not want an allergy in our house. There's also a study out that found that girls are starting their menstrual cycle earlier than in previous decades. Is this exposure to hormones?
You know, I think that this is interesting. One of the reasons could be that when they're looking at the overall numbers, this was a huge study, more than 70,000 women from the age of 18 to 74. On average, it seems as though menstrual cycles and puberty are starting at least 6 months earlier than they were, for example, in the 1950s. One of the reasons could be hormone exposure, also toxins within the environment, also the rising rate of obesity can be associated with it. But this is not something to just think about as normalized, because this is associated to increased risk of diabetes and worse health later on in life. So getting to the bottom of this is really important, but the reasons why are really murky.
And then there are, it's not just that, but there are the other things that it leads to and how that impacts adolescents.
Emotional health, social health, really important.
You said it so much more eloquently. Thank you, Dr. Darian. And Dr. Sutton, before we let you go, I know that you have a story you want to share with us about Natasha Allen, the daughter of one of our producers fighting a rare cancer and using social media to help others with cancer build a community. Let's take a look at this.
Someone said, "I love your strong personality. I was diagnosed with the same condition 12 years ago. How does that make you feel?"
Seeing that someone had the same cancer 12 years ago and they're still out here kicking, it gives me hope. The messages that really hit a chord with me are the ones where people say, you are an inspiration. Being able to be that someone for someone else makes it all worth it.
And Natasha Allen is partnering with Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center to spread further awareness by creating a foundation in her name that will help others with synovial sarcoma. Much more on Nightline and Prime tomorrow and on GMA3 in the week ahead. You can also tune into her story right now on GMA.com. But Dr. Sutton, it obviously meant a lot for you to share Natasha's
so much so.
story.
She's resilient, she's strong, and she represents young people who are being diagnosed with cancer. It seems as though it's just we're seeing it on our timelines and our social media, but the American Cancer Society has identified young people as the only age group that has seen an increase in the rate of overall cancer in the last 20 years. So I think it's so helpful and so important that we're getting that perspective from the patients, but also we're still working to understand why these numbers are increasing.
Do we have any idea?
You know, there's some suspicion, again, with the same discussion that we had regarding puberty. Is it environmental exposure? Is it diet? Is it obesity? But the one thing that I think is interesting when you speak to the oncologists is that these types of cancers aren't early stage. We're diagnosing more late stage cancers in young people. And so that is something that's not clearly understood, but hopefully we'll get more answers soon.
Yeah, and having that conversation and the awareness certainly can help a lot of people. Dr. Sutton, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Of course. All right, let's turn now and get another check of the weather. Go back to Samara Theodore. Samara, Gio's got his tank top ready for those 80-degree temperatures.
Bring out the umbrella if you're headed to the West Coast, all right? That river in the sky. Seattle, Washington, good morning. You guys have a flood watch in effect through Wednesday morning. That atmospheric river getting ready to pick up. Also, the wind alerts. Yakima, Seattle, like I said, a lot of rain coming in. First round moving in as we head through our weekend about 2 p.m. By tomorrow, you can see how heavy the rain is along the coast. This is tomorrow night. And then we get that second round moving in on Tuesday. So multiple chances of heavy rain here is going to lead to the potential for flooding. And that's why we have a lot of those flood watches in effect. 2 to 3 inches generally, but there's some spots that could see up to 5 inches of rain, my friends.
All right. Coming up on Good Morning America, the battle. Oh, thank goodness they took the camera away. The battle of the buckets. Pull it up. Come on. He's got his bucket. It's not just the movie that's drawing people into theaters.
Are we still on?
We're on.
We'll be back.
We're on.
This is the bucket for popcorn.
Oh.
People who disappear without a trace.
Where is she?
The most notorious murder cases in New York.
Pure evil.
And the most devious killers.
There's a Hannibal Lecter feel to him.
For chilling true crime stories, follow the True Crime NYC podcast wherever you listen.
Lainey Wilson, now streaming on Hulu. The story you haven't heard.
I experienced a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy.
Lainey Wilson.
It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment.
And the CMA Award for Entertainer of the Year
goes to
Lainey Wilson.
Hey y'all, it's Lainey. I cannot wait for you to see my special streaming on Hulu. This has been a wild ride, and you'll get to ride alongside me on this journey.
Lainey Wilson, Bell Bottom Country, now streaming only on Hulu.
Okay, so Will and Whit are clearly ready for this. Welcome back to GMA. A new look at the draw at movie theaters, but it's not on the silver screen. It's actually in your lap. Will Gans is here to explain how theaters are buttering up their audiences.
Yeah, there's a popcorn bucket for every bro, whether it's the Burn Book from Mean Girls or the Dune Sandworm bucket. Yeah, this summer movie theaters are trying to figure out how to get audiences off of their couches and back into seats at the cinema. And it turns out movie swag, like these novelty popcorn buckets, may be the silver screen silver bullet they've been looking for.
The summer at the box office is off to a slow start as Furiosa couldn't get into high gear. And Garfield didn't gobble up as much as expected.
I think this is a case of mistaken identity.
But after the lowest box office numbers for a Memorial Day weekend in more than 2 decades, now a new hero emerges. In the form of a popcorn bucket. Ryan Reynolds rolling out a branded bucket for his upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine film, poking fun at the wildly viral Dune Sandworm buckets, just when you thought those TikTok tides had receded. And SNL spoofs had gone silent.
To the Dune popcorn bucket.
Now Reynolds posting on social media, years from now they will look back at 2024 as the year the War of the Popcorn Buckets began. And he's got a point.
Oh, hello. I know, right?
AMC offered special R2-D2 buckets for the re-release of Phantom Menace on May the 4th, and at $50 each, they quickly sold out. Similarly, Mean Girls also asked some important snack-related questions this year.
Is butter a carb? Yes.
The remake in January offering buttered popcorn from this novelty Burn Book tin, which sold for $20 a pop. So in a summer season where every buck and bucket matters, the Wolverine bucket might just bring extra life to Deadpool.
And this just makes me so excited for the movie.
These novelty buckets are limited release, so the theaters win, and so do cinema superfans. The resale value for that R2-D2 bucket on eBay is upwards of $100, and the Burn Book is listed for more than twice what I paid for it. But I'll give you the friends and family discount, Gio.
Well, you actually have popcorn in that, don't you?
$20.
Oh, okay, so it's worth $40?
$40.
Wow,
yeah,
that's pretty good. I just hope that popcorn isn't from when you saw the movie.
Vintage.
What about this? How much can I get for this?
That you can keep the Sandworm bucket.
All right, this Dune bucket is class.
I'm excited for the Deadpool bucket.
No resale value.
Will Gans, thank you so much, as always. Coming up here on Good Morning America, the NBA Finals are set, and ESPN's Malika Andrews joins us from Los Angeles with a preview when we come right back.
Discover the new Mercedes-Benz Vito panel van. The best Vito ever made, equipped with a range of new safety and assistance systems as standard. Experience the convenience of the voice-activated MBUX multimedia system with a fresh interior and exterior design. Book a test drive today at mercedes-benz.ie. Best in action, the new Mercedes-Benz Vito.
Back now on GMA with Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks tipping off this week. ESPN's Malika Andrews joins us with a preview. Malika, good morning. Thanks for being here. The Celtics, the best team in the NBA, led by Jason Tatum. How close is he to getting that goal of winning a championship?
Whew, that's a great question. Good morning, Janae. I mean, this may be Jason Tatum's best shot yet. Of course, this is the second time in 3 years that the Boston Celtics have been in the NBA Finals. They lost in 2022 to the Golden State Warriors. You see them against the Pacers last round here. But Jason Tatum, he said afterwards he couldn't even enjoy it when they lost, when people came up to him and said that was a great run because they fell short of their goal. But he told me earlier this season he feels like this is a better team than they had in 2022 with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis, of Drew Holiday as well. And he said that he just feels like he is a better player who is ready to be the best guy out there on the floor and finally lead his team to that elusive banner number 18.
Malika, let's talk about one of the best young stars in the league, basically known by his first name, right? Luka.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in his first finals appearance?
Yeah, I mean, Luka is just, they call him Luka Magic, right, for a reason. He leads all players in points and rebounds, assists this postseason. He was the scoring champion in the regular season. This is his first NBA Finals, but you have to remember, he has been a pro since he was 13. 18 years old. So he's already played in a finals in Europe. So potentially that sort of experience can really help him on this stage when the lights are the brightest. And by the way, it doesn't hurt when you have a running mate like Kyrie Irving, who has hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history in 2016 in that Game 7 with the Cavaliers.
Yeah, the two of them have just been so good. Let's turn now, Malika, to the WNBA because Caitlin Clark had another big win in her rookie career here. Well, let's talk about this play on the court, a foul that is getting a lot of attention. Big debate over it.
Yeah, so what we came into thinking is going to be, okay, it's Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, sort of a rematch of a rivalry we saw, turned into a moment where Chennedy Carter, you see right here, a really hard foul on Caitlin Clark, and it just wasn't a basketball play, is what Caitlin Clark said, and that's absolutely correct here. But what I think is important for folks to remember is these are competitors. These women are fierce competitors, and sometimes that teeters over the line. We see it happen in the NBA as well, and I think that that's what happened here. So rather than using this as some sort of evidence of a larger issue that players have with Caitlin Clark specifically, I think we need to see this as an isolated incident where competition just boiled over a little bit, and ultimately the Fever got a much-needed win, their first win on their home floor this season.
All right.
That is fantastic.
It is fantastic. ESPN's Malika Andrews, thank you so much. Always such a pleasure to have you here on GMA. And hey, you can catch Game 1 of the NBA Finals on Thursday at 8:30 Eastern right here on ABC. And we'll be right back.
Yes,
So we learned something really
In
interesting this
2004?
morning. Samara worked at the same Cold Stone Creamery in Waikiki that I used to go to all the time.
And I didn't see you there.
No, I'm sure I was there. What was the cookies and cream one? Which one's that?
I can't remember the name, but I loved it.
But Like It, Love It, or Gotta Have It is the big
yes.
one.
That you got the gotta have it. You had to get the
so good. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you guys want to bring us into the conversation?
No,
I like
well, we were talking about ice cream flavors.
I went to Cold Stone in college.
I went to the same high school as his father-in-law.
Oh,
Yep.
my God.
Amazing. Yep. Small world.
Have a great week.
Aloha, everybody.